Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Slam. I am Jim Smallman. You are watching Sports Night Live, and may I just point out that this show is the sexiest thing on the internet, way sexier than a Hulk Hogan sex video. To be fair, most things are more sexy than a Hulk Hogan sex video.
Have you seen it yet, though?
Yes.
Is it good?
No. It really isn't. Joining me in the studio, you heard one of my guests, is a previous guest. Now I'm going to call you a regular because it's your second time in. Mr. Jimmy Havoc. Hello, sir.
Hello.
You all right?
Oh, very good, thank you.
Excellent.
Nice day today.
It is. It's lovely, isn't it? And,
Really
and
nice
we're
day.
we're chilling out in a nice air-conditioned studio. It's all good. And also, first time in the studio, a man I've crossed paths with before in a very strange supernatural way, which we'll mention later on. Mr. Leroy Kincaide.
Hey.
Hello. How are you, sir?
I'm good, not bad. Enjoying my coffee and just chilling, chatting.
It's nice. It's nice. Equal, I must say straight away, you're the most stylish man that's ever come into this studio. No disrespect.
Well, you disrespect me already.
No, but you know, I mean, you were showing off about the fact you were wearing a vest on Twitter earlier on.
That was more of a joke. It's a running joke between my friends that all I wear is vests and check shirts.
Yeah, and normally it's all I wear on stage. and today I've wore a jumper with the word failure on, just to my mum and dad know that all the money they spent on my education has gone well.
This is the hottest cup of tea I've ever had.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It is made of liquid.
It's impressive.
Magma. But Leroy, we met. We did Wrestle Talk TV a little while ago.
Yep, we did.
Where something fantastic happened. We'll talk about this in part two. But you have an interest in the supernatural.
Yeah.
And just as you were talking about that, one of the bulbs in that studio went. So today, what we've done especially is we have sprinkled everywhere in here with holy water. We've had an exorcist
Good.
in. So we should be safe.
So we're safe,
Yeah,
safe.
we
No
should
lights popping or any of that.
No, we should be quite
wicked.
safe. Now, as it's your first time in the studio, we have to ask you 3 questions. We ask everyone. Jimmy got asked these a few weeks ago. Question number 1, your favourite wrestler of all time. Who is it, sir?
For me, my favourite wrestler, I have to talk about someone that inspired me mostly with my wrestling career. I would say Triple H, probably above most people. When I was younger, obviously I had Hulk Hogan and the usuals, Ultimate Warrior and all that. But I guess somebody that I would say influenced the characterization, the style, the presence of actually being on a stage, for me, was Triple H, bar none for me.
And as well, everyone tends to focus a lot with Triple H on the fact that he's married to Stephanie and he's got his feet under the table, as it were, with the McMahon family. And people always go, oh, well, but I think people forget that he's a really good in-ring performer as well. He's good on the microphone. He's good there he is. He looks good in a suit. Now he's got ones that fit him, because there was a long period where he was wearing suits that were a little bit too big. But he is. I mean, and people tend to overlook that. When we're all sitting using the internet being smart about wrestling, we all go, oh, well, he's only where he is because of the people he knows. But he's worked for it, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you followed his career, you know, from WCW and then he worked from that and then went into WWE as, WWF back then as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I mean, his career is, you know, he's had a lot of character changes. You know, he started out at that. The Hunter Hearst Helmsley thing, then he went into the DX, and then he totally, like, you know, about 2000, I think, changed his whole persona.
Well, we've talked about the Triple H
Foley
match from Royal Rumble 2000, which is one of both of our favourite matches.
I was going to say, what a match that was.
Cracking match. I watched it again the other week,
loved it.
Just because it's one of those ones you can just
I watched it
put
that
on and
night
watch.
after we had our chat. Yeah, I watched
That's
it that
amazing.
night.
It is a tremendous match. Your favourite current wrestler performing at the moment?
Yeah, I'll be honest, right? Someone I haven't actually seen an awful lot of, but I admire to, you know, the ends of this earth, and that is a guy. Probably, you know, some people probably know him a lot, but others may not. He's a guy called Pac.
Oh, absolutely, fantastic.
I mean, you know, I've got sort of a similar sort of relationship with him in a way because of, you know, I come from a bit of a trampolining background, hence one of my finishing moves that I do. But some of the moves he pulls off, I absolutely am in awe of it because, you know, I know what it takes to get to that level of being able to pull it off with the precise precision to land it on someone.
I would go as far as saying I think Pac's possibly the best high-flying wrestler in the world.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Even better, he's British. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's because he's starting to find success in the States now, isn't he? And, you know, indies over there are really starting to get on board with him and book him quite a bit, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I really hope that, you know, in the next year or so, you see him in somewhere like, you know, TNA or WWE. Although with WWE, I don't think they would utilise him to the best of his ability because obviously, as you know, a lot of these indies, they go in there, all this character, all this hype behind them, and then they sort of I don't know. They don't get utilised to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, and a lot of the time as well. I mean, if you're a high flyer, if you're a smaller wrestler, for example, I mean, it's quite nice now that they've got CM Punk and Daniel Bryan being represented as well, because they're not massive guys. Neither of them are 7 foot tall. Do you know what I mean? They're both average size, average height. But I know what you mean. I mean, looking at people like when Matt Sydal signed, everyone sort of went, brilliant, but they're probably not going to use him, right? And they used him all right for a bit. But I mean, it's amazing how over wrestlers can be just based on that sort of ability as well, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because it's something that people don't normally get to see, though. If you think about it, like obviously, you know, you go to a show, you got a big guy, you got a skinny guy, you got a fat guy, or whatever, but they're like characters, I guess. But then when you see people doing things which, in a way, defy what most people would never really be able to daydream or dream of doing, you know, like these backflips, somersaults, corkscrews and stuff, you know, it's quite amazing to watch. And I think, like, especially when you watch people like that, it's just like, wow, you know, how the hell are you doing that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Final quick question before we have a caller on our Skype wall is your favourite match of all time. It can be one that you've been involved with. It can be one you've watched. What would you go with?
You can say our match if you want.
Our match. Yeah.
I didn't realise you two had a match. This is brilliant.
He beat me in 2 minutes. So it's,
He beat you in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
You're not bitter about this in any way,
Not at all.
Jimmy?
Not at all. Not.
I can't really remember it. It just sort of went in, done.
I remember.
It was the equivalent of the Ultimate Warrior beating the Honky Tonk Man that time.
Pretty much,
It was, wow.
Or Sid Vicious beating, what was his name? I watched that yesterday.
This has really touched a nerve with you. We're gonna have to talk about last night's edition of Raw before we upset Jimmy too much. Now, normally joining us in the studio is our friend who works for the Sun newspaper, Rob McNichol. He's going to join us on the Skype wall. Look at him with his little WrestleMania thing there. Hello, Rob.
Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry, I was just doing a bit of research there. How's it going?
I'm good. Also, once again, you're behind that security screen that they sometimes put you behind, with your graph paper and all that.
Yeah, well, it's, my opinions can be, so extreme they have to cage me. That's what it is.
Really? Okay, then opinions on Raw last night. Now, I'm personally, we've discussed this a few times. We have a theory about whether or not they're purposely making The Rock look bad to make Cena look better, to try and in some way make the crowd in Miami not boo Cena, which is still never going to happen, but it took another step in that direction last night, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I agree with that opinion from a couple of weeks back. I think that first one where Rock was meandering for 15, 20 minutes and they had Cena come and interrupt him, I think that may well have been deliberate. I think since then, I'm not sure. I think maybe he's just lost a step. I think that basically the feedback I got while I was watching it last night and reading it today on Twitter and so forth was that basically Rock fans really enjoyed the Rock stuff and Cena fans really enjoyed the Cena stuff. And I think that's what they're going for now, is there's a delineation between the two characters. They're different. They do their own thing. And their fans will be true to them whatever they do. And I think there's a certain, blinkers that come down on that. So from what I saw, the Cena fans loved the Cena stuff, the Rock fans loved the Rock stuff, and they hated each other. Yeah,
I mean, well done, first of all, for being the first person on any form of wrestling broadcast ever to use the word delineation, ever. No one has ever used that. What I liked last night is Michael Cole used a word that he clearly invented as well, which was attitudinal. To describe how The Rock... it was described John Cena's first promo.
He did,
as if they're going, let's break as many PG rules as possible just by... they're just crying to just to say the word Willie or something. Do you know what I mean? It's got quite childish playground like now.
Wasn't Rock going at Cena's mum last night as well?
Yeah.
Which was a bit childish, I thought.
Yeah, it is proper. It's proper playground stuff now. And there's, from my point of view, I mean, I'm sure you guys will agree, is the best way to have a feud is these two guys don't like each other, off they go. You don't need to bring personal stuff into it. I know they did it last night with the CM Punk thing. With Chris Jericho as well, and in that makes a bit more sense because Punk's character's so untouchable because he's such a smart aleck, isn't he? But last night it's like, please just stop trying to be like kids because it's not. It's
I think
not
that
like
works
that
for Jericho's character though.
Yeah, it works for Jericho.
He is a little kid. Basically, he's come back in. Punk's stolen his catchphrase of "I'm the best in the world." Jericho's come back in, going like, "Well, no, I'm the best in the world. I said that a few years ago.
But Jericho's a proper heel, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jericho can be a heel and he can throw his toys out and have a tantrum, and that works for Jericho. But with Cena and The Rock, they're both faces, and
it doesn't make sense for them.
It does. I do take your point on board, though, Rob. If you enjoyed The Rock in about 1998 to about 2002, then he's essentially doing the same thing, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not dissimilar, and I agree with your points about the childish name calling. I find it really ironic that last night they probably broke more PG rules than any show they've done in the last 3 or 4 years in terms of certain verbiage they used. But actually, yeah, it did feel like that it was really childish at the same time. That's a weird sort of, I'm going to use another big word now, it's a weird dichotomy that they've gone down that road.
He's got
verbiage,
thesaurus back
there.
Yeah,
that's a word for that.
Dictionary just over there. But,
that's what the WrestleMania thing was. It was just a cover over a thesaurus. Have you swallowed the spirit of Gorilla Monsoon today? Is that what this is? It's amazing. Now, other things to discuss. Zack Ryder, who's he annoyed?
Who's he annoyed?
Yeah.
Everyone on TV over the last 3 or 4 months that's been watching. No, that's a bit harsh. But well, I don't see what you mean. What do you mean? Because he's got D-pushed. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. Either, I mean, the way that a lot of people on the internet look at a wrestler getting D-pushed is that they've annoyed someone. And sometimes that's not the case. I mean, sometimes wrestlers get D-pushed just to test them, don't they? I mean, it happened with CM Punk quite famously, in that he got pushed a fair bit and then certainly got pulled back to the mid-card and then got pushed again. And it's almost like, is it the WWE's way of testing people to see if they're ready for the pressure?
I think it's two ways of looking at it. One, I think that's right, and I think the person that's going through that at the moment is The Miz, really. I mean, he's on TV, but they're not portraying him in a very good way for someone that was main event of WrestleMania last year. But I think with someone like Ryder, I think sometimes Vince has a bit of a flavour of the month, or that someone tells him something that's going on as far as the YouTube stuff, and maybe he got excited about Ryder for a couple of months and then has kind of gone off the idea. But I think it's probably more that if he's going to be used at Mania at all, it'll probably be in the 12-man tag, possibly. So I think if they're not going to use him at Mania, then they're kind of keeping him on the back burner. I thought the most interesting return last night was seeing the return of Brodus Clay, the Funkasaurus, just 3 weeks before WrestleMania, which does suggest that perhaps he'll get back into that 12-man match. And he had a different finisher. I mean, some of the rumours I heard was that it wasn't necessarily that his character wasn't clicking. It was the fact that maybe he was being a little bit unsafe in the ring. That was some of the rumours. So the fact that he's changed his finisher, perhaps that's something that they're trying to just change him a little bit so it's a bit easier to work with him. But good to see him back, I thought. I
think one of the reasons people possibly think he's unsafe to work with in the ring is he's one of very few wrestlers, apart from William Regal, to use the Regal Plex, which is a genuinely painful-looking move. And the few matches he was doing that and literally throwing people across the ring. I mean, it's not something that you tend to see. It's a bit of a head-dropping move by the WWE standards these days. I mean, it's interesting they've changed his finishing move, because I thought that whole just running into people and flattening them move was rubbish. So I'm quite happy with him having a new finishing move, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I thought it was. It looked a little bit more devastating. I was a bit surprised they allowed Mark Henry to do essentially the same move about half an hour earlier. So I thought it lessened the impact of Clay doing it. But yeah, good step, I think.
Excellent. Now, before we let you go, obviously it was a big sing-off, wrap-off thing last night. For you to conclude your broadcast to us today, the Sun's Rob McNichol, you can either choose to take part in a quick, you can give us a quick blast of rap, or you can sing us a song. Which one do you want to choose?
Is this the rule now? Is it every time I'm on camera? Is this you punishing me like Cena has a go at Rock for phoning it in? Every time I'm on the camera, you're going to make me sing?
Yeah, every time you sit in your house in Plymouth rather than coming in here, we're going to punish you. I mean, last time you did a very good job of singing various WWE themes. I'll tell you what, do that again. Another WWE theme, and we'll try and guess what it is. Go for it.
Okay. I've got one. I'll do a proper song. Okay, so it's this is going back some. It reminded me when Rock had the guitar last night. This is what I thought he was going to do. It was
okay.
How's it go? Spend my days working hard on the go, but the hands on the clock keep spinning too slow. I can't wait to be alone with my baby tonight. How's that? Is that
all right? Beautiful. That was Jeff Jarrett's theme music, wasn't it?
And
the roadie,
Jesse James, really.
Yeah, because the roadie actually sang it. You see, we're good. We're good with this. Rob McNichol, you lovely man. We shall no doubt see you in the studio again soon. Thank you very much for joining us today. Are you doing football duties tonight? Is that why you're in Plymouth?
No, it's because the train fare was too expensive.
Yeah, good.
Well,
Professional.
I am doing football duties next week, so
Marvellous.
I won't be in the next week, probably the week after.
The voice of Plymouth Argyle and the Sun's wrestling.
Voice of an
journalist.
angel.
He has got a voice of an angel as well. Thank you, Jimmy. The wonderful Mr. Rob McNichol. Thank you, sir. We shall speak to you soon.
Yeah, no problem. I look forward to being stitched up next time.
Yeah,
as well.
you will be. Don't you worry. That's Rob McNichol joining us on the Skype wall. Chaps, we'll take a little break in a second. Jimmy, we're going to find out more about your defeat to Leroy. We're going to find out a lot more about Leroy in the second part of the show. What we'll do is we'll go and have a couple of messages. You go watch these adverts, buy things, because that's what they suggest you do, and then come back and join us in part 2. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome back to part 2 of The Slam. I'm Jim Smallman. We're here every week on Sports Night Live talking wrestling. Always have 2 guests in the studio. My guests today are Jimmy Havoc and also Leroy Kincaide. Hello, chaps.
Hello.
Hello.
We all right?
Hello.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're going to talk. We'll talk about a bit about Leroy now, but also we were talking in the break about the fact you mentioned that your respect for Pac in part 1 is partly down to your trampolining background, which I wasn't aware of until I read a bit about you on the internet, that you were a trampolinist, weren't you?
Yeah. I've done trampolining, I guess, probably on and off for the last. Well, I started when I was 13, so I actually started before I was doing pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's something that I continue to do. I haven't done it probably as much the last year and a half or 2, but as a whole, pretty much. I'm obviously not looking too agile in that one, but yeah. But as a whole, I totally have the respect for where his level of athleticism comes from, because seriously, to execute those moves, some of them that he does, it takes a long time of practice and training to actually land it. Because as soon as you learn, for example, my one, the spiral tap off the top rope, it's not like you can just do that straight away on someone. You have to then
practice.
You have to practice off of the trampoline onto a solid mat or something. So, it takes a lot of time to sort of execute moves like that.
I think that's the thing that people don't think about. It's not that you just turn up one day and go, right, a few rotations, there we go, sorted. I remember reading a story about, the first time people started using moonsaults in the States, and you'd see wrestlers having to practice it over and over and over and over again. It was the same with Evan Bourne. When he signed up for the WWE, they said to him, right, you want to use a shooting star press as a finishing move. We've had a little bit of bad luck with that before, with Brock Lesnar landing on his head. So if you're going to do it, we want you to pull off 100 in a row without messing one up. And he did, and then they let him use it. But you were saying before...
Have you heard Jericho's story about his shooting star press?
Yeah, it's in his book, isn't it?
Broke his arm,
Yeah.
Smoky Mountain Wrestling, then wrestled the match that night with a broken arm.
Because it was for Smoky Mountain, wasn't it? And he bladed in the match, but because he had a dead arm, he did it with the wrong arm. And then, because I've seen the match, and I've never, it's an incredibly gory match, because he just did it completely wrong. hit a small artery in his head. It's just absolutely horrible.
It is horrific.
And he's like him and Lance Storm, the Thrill Seekers. It's a great tag team. Now, we mentioned the spiral tap. Yeah. Now, I mean, you're a big lad. I mean, I don't mean it you're just a muscly guy, right? I mean, the first time I met you, I thought he's a big lad. He's well built, right? And you do the spiral tap, which is an impressive move, and you've taken the spiral tap from Leroy.
I have indeed.
How was it?
Terrifying. Terrifying. Laying there on the floor after being winded from a spear, just thinking, can't move anyway. Let's just take it.
Because I imagine the spear's quite a difficult move to take, because you pretty much have to give it the full beans to make it look effective. I know obviously you know how to take it, but it's still. It's a move that you use in American football to actually hurt people.
Yeah, do you know what, right? I don't know if anyone's really watched sort of the way that I do a spear, but I do it quite different to how a lot of people do, because I rotate on my one. Yeah. So, for example, a lot of people drive through people, and naturally that does bloody hurt. So what I try and do is I sort of twist it a little bit, because a lot of my moves I do, I don't know if anyone's noticed, I put little rotations on them. I'll do a drop kick, I'll rotate in it, I'll do the spiral tap, I rotate.
It's just adding a bit of flair to stuff.
Yeah. So, but I do that with the gore, so it's more like I roll round, So it's like a little tweak on there, something different.
Yeah. Did you feel that little tweak when you...
without a doubt.
The tweak. The tweak. That's how we call it.
Have you ever got any form of revenge against Leroy? Is this just the only match you guys have ever had?
Only match we had.
Yeah.
I don't just genuinely feel sorry for you now, because I wouldn't want to have a spiral tap of Leroy or be speared by him. Lovely bloke though he is. I wouldn't want to take these things. Now, outside of wrestling, that's the token picture of Jimmy that we have.
that you?
Me and my dress, yeah.
Cheers,
cheers, guys.
Your Lucha Britannia name?
El Transexico.
Yeah. I love the fact that I can only recognise that personally, partly because I knew it was you, but equally if I didn't know it was you, I recognise your tattoos.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would have been amazing. I would pay to watch El Transexico Leroy Kincaide match. Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen. Bookers of the world, make this happen. There's two things in the world I want. I want an El Transexico Leroy Kincaide match, and I want to sit face to face with the Ultimate Warrior. There are two things in the world I want in the world of wrestling now. Yeah, I mean, outside of wrestling, you've got a lot of stuff going on because you've been on our TV sets, haven't you?
Yeah.
And just sort of run us through what you've been up to.
I'm basically one of those people. I try everything. I get in the mix of it because I think, like, to understand anything, you have to actually go out and do it. We're in the entertainment industry as professional wrestlers, so for example, like a lot of that, you know, you understand there's elements of acting there, you know, there's stage performance there. So I try to draw on as much as possible, and I never say never to anything. So, like, you know, acting, I've been up to the last, like, year or so. 2010, went out to Italy, done a film out there. Obviously, continued wrestling. On the mix of that, I got involved with, like, TV show editing. So I started, like, editing, like, paranormal TV show and produced, like, my own, like,
this is something I believe we've got a bit of VT about this. If you're into your paranormal stuff, and bearing in mind, I am praying that nothing happens to the studio when we do this. But if you're into your paranormal stuff, we'll show you a bit of VT now. Have a look at this.
I feel like a lot of people scared when I thought.
Not even a little way. The table was moved
over the way back
to there.
Moved all the way to here.
Move.
What was that?
Oh my god.
Did you just see something?
And right above my head again, right there. Same. 4 really loud, like, bangs above my head.
It was over there at first, and then it was over there.
Yeah.
They certainly will not be scaring me tonight in here.
Oh.
Yeah, I just feel really frightened. Really scared.
See, that is actually like the trailer for the film The Devil Inside, but actually frightening. Because that film's rubbish. That, on the other hand, is cracking, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
I mean, how did you get involved with this?
Right, you want the full life story or the short story? As a whole, I would say I've always been into the paranormal as long as pretty much I've been alive, to be honest. I was brought up around an old-fashioned sort of belief. You know, I was brought up by my grandparents. They had the belief inside of, you know, there's energies out there and there's different things like that. You know, whether people believe in that or not, you know, it's up to them. But as a whole, I'd always had an understanding of there being a bit more to life than what we know. So I guess from that, the passion sort of grew till probably in about 2010 when I was like, okay, let me just see what I can do with it. You know, something extra. And basically, not only has it enabled me to sort of, one, branch out and try and look for any evidence of the paranormal, also it's given me the ability to be able to sort of, one, produce my own stuff as well as edit as well, because it's like a massive tool to be able to do so much, you know.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So I sort of, as I said earlier on, I'm one of those people, I try everything, get in the mix of it and understand it. So, you know, that's what the paranormal has sort of done for me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to check out your paranormal stuff in particular, I mean, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can go to the YouTube channel, Paranormal GI TV. That's pretty much where we have literally everything, or just type in Paranormal GI in Google and you'll find literally everything that we've done.
You see, I know we've got to talk about wrestling as well, but before we get back on, I mean, what's the scariest thing that's happened to you?
I would say, to be honest, is from that VT you just saw there, one of the scariest moments we had was one of our first actual ever investigations we did. We ended up going to like a restaurant in Maidstone, where I live, called Flaming Henry's, and basically the walkie-talkies started getting some interference, right? We rounded off the investigation, heard a couple of weird bangs and creaks in the investigation. And I left one of my walkie-talkies down inside of the main hall. So we all rounded up inside this old derelict part of the building, but I'd forgot that I'd left it in there. So I'm assuming the interference was coming from there and interfering with the other ones. And then all of a sudden the walkie-talkies started going, like, just started going off. just for
That
some unknown
terrifying.
reason. Now, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it could be this, it could be that, but well, when you're there and it's actually happening, it's totally different.
You don't think rationally, do you, at that point?
Well,
I mean, I suppose you
yeah.
do. If you've got a semblance of understanding of it, you will. But still at
Yeah.
the same time, still going to make you jump, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is like because it's the unexpected. You know, it's none of it's planned. It's all just as it happens. So when you experience something, what one you can't explain, and two, there's no rational reason for that to happen. It sort of makes you go, well, okay, well, what is it? You know, because the walkie-talkies work perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But it's just like it's a bit weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, it's very weird.
Now, with regards to wrestling,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're still wrestling at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, how far do you want to take it with wrestling? I mean, would you like that to be that, you know, say someone from the States or came calling that you say you've got to try out to go over there? Is that the sort of thing that you would want to happen, or is it that you're happy sort of doing various bits and bobs?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I want to take it to as far as I can go, you know, and I believe that I could go as far as I see it in myself to go. I definitely would like to try and go to America at some point soon, see myself working for possibly TNA, maybe WWE, just so, you know, I want to get in the mix of it again now. You know, I've taken a little bit of, shall we say, not AWOL, just a little bit of downtime, you know, I've not been pushing too much. The next year I'm planning to push quite a lot with my wrestling career. I sort of do want to try and make my statement overseas a bit, you know, so that's the plan. That's what I want to do.
I mean, I suppose it's one of those, I'm sure it's the same with you, Jimmy, that you always, I mean, the British wrestling scene is great, and I'm proud to be British and proud that we've got a great wrestling scene in Britain. But at the same time, you know, to make a really decent living out of things, you have to wrestle in Europe. You have to, because I know Rhea, who comes on the show quite a bit. I mean, she's over in Canada at the minute. You know, she wrestles a lot in Europe because it seems to be more money there. And I suppose it's one of those things that you on one hand, you've got to travel to sort of make the money, but equally, it's quite nice, isn't it? Getting to see different places by going around the world.
I do WXW in Germany quite regularly, and yes, it's good fun. It's, you know, we're good friends out there. They fly us out, get a hotel for the weekend. Yes, it is good fun. You get to wrestle in front of one of the best crowds I've ever wrestled in front of.
Yeah.
These guys, like, literally are just hammering on the apron.
Well, I've seen a couple of WXW DVDs, and it's great, you know, and it is great that you know, because Europe's so easy to get everywhere in Europe anyway. If we can, you know, represent the British wrestling fraternity overseas, and I mean, it does seem like a good time for British wrestlers as well. I mean, you look at the amount of, it used to be when I was a kid, there'd only ever be one British guy in the WWE, and there'd be one British guy in WCW, and that was it. And now, you know, there's plenty of Brits. You know, there's plenty of Brits in the big two, and there's plenty of Brits like Pac making their name. You know, elsewhere, another guy, Zack Sabre Jr. is sort of starting to get well known in the States and in Japan in particular.
Yeah, he's getting good work from Noah at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about the States. I mean, would you guys want to work? I mean, it's different with you because you're sort of deathmatch style.
Yeah.
I mean, would you prefer Japan or America if either came calling?
I'd prefer Japan. I think Big Japan. Really good deathmatch company over in Japan, and they're not just deathmatch. They do, you know, normal matches.
They do good matches as well. Yeah.
CZW, like I'm quite good friends with all those guys because of the WXW shows. We do like a yearly tournament of death over there, which is the three companies all together. So I'm good friends. I mean, I've worked with people like Jun Kasai, Rahuji Ito, and then the Americans, Masada, Drake Younger, you know, Sammy Callahan, all these sort of guys. You know, it's good fun.
Well, of course, Sammy Callahan's just had a tryout with WWE, hasn't he? Which is very exciting. Yeah, I mean, because I'm quite a big fan of his, and for him to sort of get a couple of tryouts, and it just takes a lucky break, doesn't it? Every now and again, you know. I mean, would you? Because I think in Japan you'd go over really well, just because you know you're a big, powerful guy. I mean, they'd love you over there, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I would assume so. I'll be honest, I've never really been around, for example, like a lot of people that get on the wrestling scene, they go out and they wrestle loads. I've been one of those people that I go out and I wrestle on the show that I sort of enjoy to do.
Yeah.
So I haven't really been able to make any sort of connections overseas with, like, you know, Japan or anything. Possibly if the opportunity came up, I probably would go.
Yeah.
You know, it's somewhere which I've been interested in because, you know, I know that they appreciate the how should we say, the actual essence of the wrestling.
Yeah, that's the thing.
As opposed to the poppy sort of
art
stuff.
Of it that they appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, if whether you're doing strong style stuff, whether you're doing deathmatch stuff, they do seem to understand the ability for people to tell. I mean, it's amazing if you watch a Japanese wrestling crowd, how they'll stay really quiet through really, really high spots, but they'll build and build and build and build and build, rather than it being this sort of you know, pop, silence, and it just builds this amazing sort of crescendo. I think I was talking about this with someone the other week. I think most of my favourite matches of all time are from Japan in the mid-90s, and it's just because of how crazy the fans are. I mean, you see all these people sat there in business suits like this, just watching the match, and then you get someone like Vader coming out, just swinging punches at them, and if you hit one of their fans, they just go, "Thank you." And it's like, this is mad.
That video of,
I mean, I know you're a very polite man, Leroy, but I mean, you could go over there and be as rude as you wanted, and no one would stand in your way. You're a big lad.
I saw a video of Steiner a couple of weeks ago going crazy on the Indian fans in that.
What? Yeah, but it's Scott Steiner. Is no one surprised? No one's surprised whatsoever. Someone told me once he's actually a surprisingly nice man. But I've yet to see any other evidence to back this up. Listen, in the third part of the show, we're going to be chatting with John Lister, who's a wrestling author, wrestling journalist. We're going to have a chat with him about various books that he's written and his various opinions on wrestling at the moment. But we'll be back after a couple of minutes of adverts. We'll see you in a minute. Hello, welcome back to part 3 of The Slam. I am joined this week on Sports Tonight Live by my two guests, Mr. Jimmy Havoc, Mr. Leroy Kincaide, and genuinely happy to see you both here.
I'm happy to see you, mate.
It's good.
It's been a while, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. This is what I like. We're now starting to foster this nice little atmosphere between people. We get in quite a bit. Obviously, Leroy's first time in. We'll no doubt get you in again, mate. And it's nice. It's nice to sit here and chat with you. Now, we're going to be speaking on our Skype wall to somewhat of a wrestling expert. Now, I read a lot of books about wrestling, but especially I will talk to anyone who does stand-up comedy and tell them the most important book you can read as a stand-up comedian is nothing to do with comedy. It's Mick Foley's first autobiography. Read that, and it will teach you the essence of sleeping on people's couches and driving and earning no money for doing something that you absolutely love. There's loads and loads of great books written about wrestling, and someone who knows a lot about this, having written a few himself, is John Lister on our Skype wall. Hello, John.
Hello, good to be here.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Excellent. A man with many folders behind him, which is a sign of a busy man, I'm sure.
You won't be at all surprised to know that is in fact the Wrestling Observer from 1983 to the present day.
That is amazing. Oh, that's so cool.
Since I have been told we are not moving house again.
That is amazing. Presumably you get it posted from the States all the way over here.
There's a large collection. Some of them come from the internet when I was subscribers. Actually, most of the ones from 1991 to 1992, which is an amazing trivia fact, I bought from Rob Butcher, who used to be a tape trader and Power Slam writer. He actually got them from Mike Carlson, who's now the BBC Super Bowl expert on the NFL.
Absolutely. Someone was telling me he's a
wrestling fan.
Yeah, someone was telling me he's a big wrestling fan, and it's amazing when you find out people are wrestling fans. Because we were talking about this off air before. You were in Leroy. You were in a Lethal Bizzle video.
Yeah.
And we had him on Talking Balls on Sports Tonight Live the other week, and he's a massive wrestling fan. And,
he is.
And it's brilliant. I just love it when you find out people, you go, I really respect these people, and you respect them even more when you find out you're wrestling fans, which is brilliant. Now, you're a wrestling journalist, aren't you, John? I mean, that's the joyous title that you can give yourself, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. I mean, I'm actually a freelance journalist full-time now, but sort of one of my specialist areas is wrestling. So I've formerly written for Power Slam, now write for FSM magazine, and also done a few pieces for sort of non-wrestling article places such as a linguistics magazine. I wrote a piece about the language of kayfabe, and also sort of advised the Sun on a few things, and it's an amazing subject, wrestling, but you can sort of take it to so many different areas. Yeah, and as well, I mean, some of the books, we've got the images up on the screens here of some of the books that you've written, and it's not. I mean, it's not necessarily. This is the thing about wrestling fans. A lot of people just think we just like a certain period and that's it. But you're into pretty much every facet of it, and you've written some interesting books in terms of different subject matter, haven't you? In terms of wrestling. Yeah, I mean, put 3 books together. The first one was called Slamthology, which was a compilation of work I'd done over the past 15 years or so. So the first half of the book is travel journeys, going around the States, going to everyone from USWA in Memphis to the Dallas Sportatorium, ECW Arena. And then the second half of the book is all sorts of different articles, historical ones going right back to when I was sort of a teenager, so we're talking kind of fan fiction kind of thing. My second book was History of ECW, and the latest book I've just put out, which is a Kindle-only book, is a compilation of articles about British wrestling, both past and present.
Excellent. I mean, how do you evaluate the British wrestling scene at the minute? Because, you know, obviously we've got 2 British wrestlers in the studio with me. Very proud to be part of it. I've now become a British wrestling promoter, running a company called Progress. And I mean, how do you sort of evaluate it? Because I mean, I remember the first time I ever remember watching a wrestling match. I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and it was Satoru Sayama against Dynamite Kid on World of Sport, which is a brilliant match to watch as your first ever match.
Yeah, you got a bit luckier than me, because I seem to remember the first one I ever watched, what I remember, was listed in the TV Times, and it was Big Daddy against the Master Marvel, and it said that if the Master Marvel lost, he would have to unmask, and my mum said that was complete rubbish. They was just say that to get you watch, and I watched it, and he was unmasked. I blame my mum for getting me into this wrestling business sort of 25, 30 years later.
When he got unmasked, did he look like an Adonis of a man, or did he look like a man who probably worked in a working men's club?
I seem to recall it may have been Drew McDonald, but he did the old job of immediately getting a towel on his head and getting a straight out. But to be honest, he was not what you would call sort of star quality, even when he had the mask on. It was the Big Daddy feud with Charlie McGee, who was the manager, and bringing sort of a different brute every week to get put away by Daddy.
This is what I love, is you were such an expert, as you've just pretty much given us that story, and knowing every. I mean, I'm pretty geeky when it comes to wrestling, and but only with limited sort of period. I mean, has there been a point where you've had to go and research stuff, or is it just you've immersed yourself so much in it over the past few years?
There's all sorts of research goes into the articles. I mean, when you're talking about the British wrestling, particularly the sort of 60s and 70s, there's a website called Wrestling Heritage, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of both the sheer detail it's got on there, and also the message board posters. It's kind of weird, because it's kind of looking at something like the UK Fan Forum, but it's people who are talking about what they remember in the 1950s and the 60s. So they'll be, instead of a Montreal Screwjob, they'll be talking about the time that there was a wrestler on TV that started not cooperating in the ring with Mick McManus, trying to make his name. And it's sort of only with the internet, sort of 30 years later, that we found from that in the south of England, where McManus was very much protected and was looked after by the promoters, they actually had that on tape delay and cut it off before the end, said they had to go to the football results, so you never actually saw this. Whereas in the north of England, it was allowed to go out live, and it's only recently that people have sort of both been arguing about, oh, I definitely saw this, and people saying, no, it cut off from the end. And it's actually from that story we found out that there were different TV schedules across the country.
That is amazing. I mean, on the subject of non-cooperation, I'm going to ask my two burly gentlemen in the studio. Have you ever had this happen? Because I like wrestling's so much based on trust. Have you ever been in a match where someone hasn't cooperated, or has perhaps taken it a bit too far? The first ever match I was in was as a Rumble.
Yeah. And there was a guy in there who just knew I was new and just decided to try and take liberties with me. Didn't work.
I love that. No, it didn't work.
I mean, I probably should have just sat down and taken it, but I've got a bit of a temper on me, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you did. I had the same sort of experience. It was in a Rumble. You tend to find that it happens mostly in a Rumble with your newish sort of guy. You get put in a Rumble, go on, lad, go on, have a go, and then it's like the way you're thrown out of the Rumble could pretty much, if people don't take care of you, it could end your career before it's even started. And I remember I won't mention his name. I remember him very well. He picked me up and he just literally launched me out of the bloody ring. I couldn't hold on to the rope, I couldn't touch the apron, I just went straight over the top, and luckily enough I landed okay. But that's luckily enough, but some people aren't lucky enough. I've heard of stories before where people just get abused like that, they break an arm, a leg or something, and it's just like, I don't understand people's logic, why they have to do that,
You're meant to be looking after each other. Now, just quick, one-word answer from you both. These people who took liberties, have you in any way got revenge on them in any way whatsoever? Jimmy?
I'm going to say yes.
Good. Leroy?
No.
Will you?
No.
No, you see, because you're a pro.
No, that's it, come see, come saw, what goes around comes around.
To be fair, my revenge is I'm still wrestling.
Yeah, you win.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Well done. Now, John, before we let you go, obviously we can get hold of your books. Are they all available on Kindle?
Yes, they all on Kindle now. That's actually why I put together the latest book, which is called Greetings Grapple Fans. because sort of had got to grips with converting books onto the Kindle format and putting up there, which is why I've been able to take these old cons that are no longer available online and put them out for sort of a very low price. You'll also be able to get Slamthology in print form through Amazon as well.
Oh, excellent stuff. So just best way to do it, people search for your name, John Lister, and they can get hold of them. I've got a Kindle, so I'm going to be getting hold of them myself, mate. Listen, John, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. I personally want to come round to your house and just look through your copies of The Observer. But thank you very much, my friend. We will speak to you again soon. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
John Lister, if you want to get hold of any of his books, he's got 3 books available on the Kindle, then search for his name, John Lister. It's exactly as it sounds on Amazon, and you can hopefully check out some of his work. I can't believe all those copies of The Observer.
That's a lot.
Yeah. That is amazing. I mean, from 1983 onwards.
He's like the Wikipedia of wrestling, isn't he? By the sounds of it.
I love it because people will say to me, what's this match, and I can normally name it, and if I can't, you can search for it. But you get the feeling that you could ask him anything, not just British or Japanese or American. He knows everything. Yeah. I'd love to have that level of knowledge. Lovely audience. We will go and take a quick break now. We'll be off for about 2 minutes. You can watch adverts that will possibly subliminally suggest that you purchase products. Go and do that, and then return in 2 minutes, and we'll have the final part of the slam. We'll see you in 2. Yay! Welcome back to the final part of this week's edition of The Slam. If you're wondering why I was sat like an excited child, it's because Martin, our producer, as well as wearing a natty scarf today, has also warned me that there is something very exciting, a little surprise for me in this part of the show. And I love surprises, not Kinder surprises, they're rubbish. Joining me in the studio, they're rubbish, is Jimmy Havoc.
I used to love Kinder Eggs, man.
The chocolate's all right, it's the surprise.
The one I got the other day was rotten. It was like a spinning wheel thing that flies off. It went about a foot in the air. And
look at you, the disappointment.
I was gutted.
Jimmy Havoc is disappointed with his quality of toy, people at Kinder. Jimmy Havoc joining me and Leroy Kincaide. Thank you guys for joining me today. Now, every week I ask a question to you, lovely people watching the Slam, and what you do is you tweet me your answer, and then we compile it, and we put a few images up on the screen to let you know what the results were. Now, last week's question was, who would you like, because we're overbooking the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Triple H enough at the minute. So we think Mick Foley might end up on commentary, which would be great. Shawn Michaels is a special guest referee, which is great. Who else could we involve in this match to make it any more of an overbooked mess to protect 2 men who are approaching their 50s? And the results were in. And also, I must give you guys credit for actually, you've latched onto the fact now that you will give me silly suggestions, and I will sit there reading my Twitter feed, laughing my backside off. If you want to get in touch, at Jim Smallman on Twitter. You'll probably see it on the screen at some point during the show. Now, number 3 on the list, and the first time this man has been mentioned outside of anything in a long time, is Midian. I must stress, it's not just Midian that people want to get involved. It's like the European Championship. Oh my Lord, that's a long time ago.
Going back.
It's as you can see, he's got the logo there. It's the Ministry of Darkness. They want the Ministry of Darkness.
Not naked Midian then. Not naked Midian.
No, not naked Midian.
Oh, that's a shame.
So the Ministry of Darkness, they'd like to get involved, which was, well, it was an interesting angle when it happened. Let's put it that way. Number two on the list is D-Generation X. Now, this was a very specific inclusion, not the original good D-Generation X with. Let's do a quick wrestling trivia question. Yeah, you already got it. Rick Rude was the secret addition and the secret ingredient, I feel, with the original DX being so cool. The fairly rubbish one, which had X-Pac in. Now, a lot of people want to see that. Not me personally. And then there was a sensible suggestion for the final person, and I can do an impression of him. Oh yes, there he is. There he is, the man with the world's rubberiest face, Paul Bearer, who, I'll be honest, when I was a kid, I hated him. I hated him so much.
He used to creep me right out.
Yeah, that is genuinely annoying. Yeah. The first time I ever saw him, I just remember going, huh? Because he made no sense.
He has got a scary face. Yeah,
he's terrifying. And imagine though, if the Undertaker had been managed by Brother Love as he was meant to be for a long time,
that would have worked.
That would not have worked. Yes. So Paul Bearer, if you're watching, and we hope you are, then please do come along and take part.
Isn't he still encased in
WrestleMania.
concrete?
He might still be encased in concrete. I don't know. We could chip him out. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's WWE. There's no continuity there with storylines. Now, I have been apparently sent a surprise video. Now, sadly, I'm led to believe this video isn't from the Ultimate Warrior, who I have been calling out several weeks in a row here on the Slam. And if you're watching this, Warrior, if that is your real name, still waiting. You know, feel free to come in, talk about whatever you want, fishing, conservative politics. I'm not bothered. You can come in and me and you will have a natter about whatever you want. I'll take you shopping. I'll take you for a Subway because, you know, budget doesn't stretch to that much, but we will feed you. I mean, come on in. Come on in, Warrior. The chance is here. You know, we've had Mick Foley in this studio. You know, coming in. Me and you, Warrior. That's enough of that. Anyway, we've been sent a very special surprise video that is apparently a surprise for me. So, well, let's roll the tape, shall we?
M is for the massive muscles that he used to mangle the opponents who were mad enough to mess with him. A is for the anguish they felt when he ably attacked those opponents and summarily defeated them. N is for no, you've never beaten him. You shouldn't even try cause he is the best. T is for the tears that rained down from my eyes on the day I found out Jim Smallman took a shot at him. He didn't have the right and I'll never forgive him. A is for the anger felt round the world on the saddest of days when Razor Ramon cheated him. U is for the uncommon dignity and grace that he always displayed when he stepped into the ring, my friend. R is for remember and never forget the 95 Rumble when Luger eliminated him. Put it all together, what do you get? Mantaur, baby, he was the best. There'll never be another one like him, no, no, no. So when you're at home and you're playing in the Slam and you're trying to find a job but you slander and defame, oh, might I remind you folks about the time that Mantaur easily defeated Buck Quartermain. Leroy Howard, he beat him too. I wasn't surprised and neither should you be, because all empirical evidence suggests that the mythical man-beast Mantaur was the best. He had the skill to pass any wrestling test. In the history of wrestling, many have tried, but none have succeeded at the level that he did, capturing my heart and leaving an impression on my very soul since I was a little kid. So watch out, Smallman, I'm coming for you. There's not a damn thing that you can do. McNicholas safe because he agreed with me, but your foolish remarks have angered me. You better sleep with one eye open, little
If you're not familiar with who that gentleman is, that's Mantaur, fan. I slagged off Mantaur once. I'm now very sorry about it, but I mean that is a level of fandom that I don't think you see, and also you know a fairly beautiful Bob Dylan impression as well.
It's good.
Artistic piece of work there.
Yeah. I mean, have you? I mean, there's wrestling fans, isn't there? And then there's people who are borderline crazy, but you've got respect for. I have respect for Mantaur fan, and you should follow him on Twitter, by the way, because he's brilliant. I mean, the man loves Mantaur, a man who probably had, 6 matches in the WWE on television, and I mean, the man's obsessed with him. I mean, have you got particularly obsessed fans? I mean, do you ever go anywhere and there's people that you've wrestled in front of before and they're waiting for you with you know a framed photo of you guys or something?
Yeah, I think we've all got one or two of them around. But it's nice though, it's very flattering, do you know what I mean, that people go out of their way that much. Be it good news or bad news.
He's so nice.
He is. He's
so nice about everyone.
No, it's true. Like I mean, I'll be honest, I've been to some places before. I've been as far as Liverpool up north, same guy there, and I've been down to IPW UK in Sittingbourne, and I've seen the same guy down there.
Nice.
And he said that he's come along to just basically come and watch me and whatever else and see the show. And I find that the fact that someone's that supportive, not even of me, just as a whole of the British wrestling scene.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think, if I'm honest, a lot of people could learn a lot from that, you know, rather than actually just writing on the forum and saying, oh, this, that, and the other. I've never got into all of that.
Go and watch.
Go and
wrestling.
watch it. You know,
there's plenty of stuff you can go and watch.
Just go and watch it and enjoy it. You know, rather than critique everything that you know nothing about.
Totally agree. Now, one word answer again from you both. Have you ever had slightly stalkery female fans? One word answer. Jimmy?
Yes.
Excellent. Leroy?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Is this because you take your missus everywhere and she fends them off?
This is like, you know, I hear everyone in wrestling, they talk about they get these girls in wrestling and they bang them and do all this stuff. Can I say that?
We're not suggesting Jimmy ever
Sorry,
did that.
yeah. Okay, yeah, they, you know, they date and kiss and all that stuff. I'll be honest, I've never once ever been in a wrestling show in all of my, you know, I started when I was 15, you know, number of years now, ever pulled a girl, ever.
This is amazing. This is one thing where you've got the advantage.
Is it an advantage? I'm not sure it's an advantage.
He may beat you in, it depends what she looks like. Lovely people who enjoy the Slam every week. We will be back next week. I need to pose you a quick question. At Jim Smallman on Twitter. The question is, and it's a Twitter-based question, who's your favourite wrestler to follow on Twitter? I know mine is, and it's probably the same as Jimmy's. So who is your favourite wrestler to follow on Twitter? At Jim Smallman. Let me know, and we'll reveal the answers next week. Now, before we go, guys, give you a chance to plug things. Jimmy, where can people follow you on Twitter? Any other things you want to plug?
At Jimmy Havoc on Twitter. We've got Lucha Britannia this Friday night, Bethnal Greens, come along to that. Big IPW show at the end of the month, 31st of March. We're in March, aren't we? Oh, it's my birthday next week. My birthday next week. Saturday night, Montague Pike, Charing Cross Road. Come out for my birthday, buy me some drinks.
That's the best plug anyone's ever done on a television programme.
31st in Swanley in Kent, we've got an IPW show, so come along to that. And then the 1st of April, Glasgow, we've got ICW.
Excellent stuff, which you've mentioned, you know, last time you were on. Leroy?
You can follow me on Twitter, Leroy Kincaide. Well, is it at? I don't know.
At Leroy Kincaide.
It's at Leroy Kincaide on Twitter. If you're interested in my paranormal stuff, you know, just type in paranormal GI and you find that there. My next show I'm lucky to be involved with is 28th of April, which is at the Troxy, which is you know, one of the big shows that's coming up in the UK. So yeah, come along, show your support, show your love for the UK scene. Other than that, I've got nothing else to plug. Yeah,
well, you're just a lovely, a lovely young man.
Young man.
I'm going to plug something quickly. I'm running a show called Progress. It's at the Garage in Islington. It's on March the 25th. Website for that is progresswrestling.com. We're going to do a bit of a special sort of preview of it next week, hopefully with a couple of very special guests I'm quite excited about. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Jim Smallman, don't forget, get your questions in. Your favourite wrestlers to follow on Twitter. I expect you to include these two now. You've got their Twitter addresses. And also, a big thanks once again to Mantaur fan. We love you, Mantaur fan. Please keep sending us crazy things. And if you're going to WrestleMania, Mantaur fan, I will take you out for dinner. That is a promise. Okay, I mean, there is probably an upper price limit, but we will do it. Thank you very much for watching The Slam this week. We'll return next week on Sports Tonight Live. Get all your comments and questions into us on Twitter, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much to Jimmy and Leroy. Yep. We'll see you then.
Thank you for having us. Wicked.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.
Personally, we've discussed this a few times. We have a theory about whether or not they're purposely making The Rock look bad to make Cena look better, to try and in some way make the crowd in Miami not boo Cena, which is still never going to happen. But it took another step in that direction last night, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I agree with that opinion from a couple of weeks back. I think that first one where Rock was meandering for 15, 20 minutes and they had Cena come and interrupt him, I think that may well have been deliberate. I think since then, I'm not sure. I think maybe he's just lost a step. I think that basically the feedback I while I was watching it last night and reading it today on Twitter and so forth, was that basically Rock fans really enjoyed the Rock stuff and Cena fans really enjoyed the Cena stuff. And I think that's what they're going for now, is there's a delineation between the two characters. They're different, they do their own thing, and their fans will be true to them whatever they do. And I think there's a certain, blinkers that come down on that. So from what I saw, the Cena fans loved the Cena stuff, the Rock fans loved the Rock stuff, and they hated each other.
Yeah, I mean, well done, first of all, for being the first person on any form of wrestling broadcast ever to use the word delineation, ever. No one has ever used that. What I liked last night is Michael Cole used a word that he clearly invented as well, which was attitudinal. To describe how The Rock... no, it was described John Cena's first promo.
He did,
as if they're going, let's break as many PG rules as possible just by... they're just crying to just to say the word Willie or something. Do you know what I mean? They're just it's got quite childish playground-like now.
Wasn't Rock going at Cena's mum last night as well?
Yeah.
Which was a bit childish, I thought.
It is proper. It's proper playground stuff now. And there's, from my point of view, I mean, I'm sure you guys will agree, is the best way to have a feud is these two guys don't like each other, off they go. You don't need to bring personal stuff into it. I know they did it last night based on that sort of ability as well, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because it's something that people don't normally get to see, though. If you think about it, like obviously, you go to a show, you got a big guy, you got a skinny guy, you got a fat guy or whatever, but they're like characters, I guess. But then when you see people doing things which, in a way, defy what most people would never really be able to daydream or dream of doing, like these backflips, somersaults, corkscrews and stuff, it's quite amazing to watch. And I think, like, especially when you watch people like that, it's just like, wow, how the hell are you doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Final quick question before we have a caller on our Skype wall is your favourite match of all time. It can be one that you've been involved with, it can be one you've watched. What would you go with?
You can say our match if you want.
Our match. Yeah.
I didn't realise you two had a match. This is brilliant.
He beat me in 2 minutes. So it's,
He beat you in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
You're not bitter about this in any way,
Not
Jimmy?
Not at all.
I can't really remember it. It just sort of went in, done.
I remember.
It was the equivalent of the Ultimate Warrior beating the Honky Tonk Man that time.
Pretty much,
It was, wow.
Or Sid Vicious beating, what was his name? I watched that yesterday.
This has really touched a nerve with you. We're gonna have to talk about last night's edition of Raw before we upset Jimmy too much.
Yeah.
Now, normally joining us in the studio is our friend who works for the Sun newspaper, Rob McNichol. He's going to join us on the Skype wall. Look at him with his little WrestleMania thing there. Hello, Rob.
Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry, I was just doing a bit of research there. How's it going?
I'm good. Also, once again, you're behind that security screen that they sometimes put you behind, with your graph paper and all that.
Yeah, well, it's my opinions can be, so extreme they have to cage me. That's what it is.
Really? Okay, then opinions on Raw last night. Now, I'm Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Slam. I am Jim Smallman. You are watching Sports Night Live, and may I just point out that this show is the sexiest thing on the internet, way sexier than a Hulk Hogan sex video. To be fair, most things are more sexy than a Hulk Hogan sex video.
Have you seen it yet, though?
Yes.
Isn't it good?
No. It really isn't. Joining me in the studio, you heard one of my guests, is a previous guest. Now, I'm going to call you a regular because it's your second time in. Mr. Jimmy Havoc. Hello, sir.
Hello.
You all right?
Oh, very good, thank you.
Excellent.
Nice day today.
It is. It's lovely, isn't it? And,
Really
and
nice
we're
day.
we're chilling out in a nice air-conditioned studio. It's all good. And also, first time in the studio, a man I've crossed paths with before in a very strange supernatural way, which we'll mention later on. Mr. Leroy Kincaide.
Hey.
Hello. How are you, sir?
I'm good, not bad. Enjoying my coffee and just chilling, chatting.
It's nice. It's nice. Equal, I must say straight away, you're the most stylish man that's ever come into this studio. No disrespect.
Well, you disrespect me already.
No, but you know, I mean, you were showing off about the fact you were wearing a vest on Twitter earlier on.
That was more of a joke. It's a running joke with my friends that all I wear is vests and check shirts.
Yeah, and normally it's all I wear on stage. And today I've wore a jumper with the word failure on, just to my mum and dad know that all the money they spent on my education has gone well.
This is the hottest cup of tea I've ever had.
Yeah, it is.
It's
it is made of liquid.
It's impressive.
But Leroy, we met. We did Wrestle Talk TV a little while ago.
Yep, we did.
Where something fantastic happened. In the, we'll talk about this in part 2. But you have an interest in the Super just because it's one of those ones you can just.
I watched it that night after we had our chat. Yeah, I watched it that
amazing.
night.
It is a tremendous match. Your favourite current wrestler performing at the moment?
Yeah, I'll be honest, right? Someone I haven't actually seen an awful lot of, but I admire to the ends of this earth, and that is a guy. Probably, some people probably know him a lot, but others may not. He's a guy called Pac.
Oh, absolutely, fantastic.
I mean, I've got sort of a similar sort of relationship with him in a way because of I come from a bit of a trampolining background, hence one of my finishing moves that I do. But some of the moves he pulls off, I absolutely am in awe of it because I know what it takes to get to that level of being able to pull it off with a precise precision to land it on someone.
I would go as far as saying I think Pac's possibly the best high-flying wrestler in the world.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Even better, he's British. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's because he's starting to find success in the States now, isn't he? And indies over there are really starting to get on board with him and book him quite a bit, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I really hope that in the next year or so, you see him in somewhere like TNA or WWE. Although with WWE, I don't think they would utilise him to the best of his ability because obviously, as you know, a lot of these indies, they go in there, all this character, all this hype behind them, and then they sort of, I don't know, they don't get utilised to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, and a lot of the time as well, I mean, if you're a high flyer, if you're a smaller wrestler, for example, I mean, it's quite nice now that they've got CM Punk and Daniel Bryan being represented as well because they're not massive guys. Neither of them are 7 foot tall. Do you know what I mean? They're both average size, average height. But I know what you mean. I mean, looking at people like when Matt Sydal signed, everyone sort of went, brilliant, but they're probably not going to use him, right? And they used him all right for a bit. But I mean, it's amazing how over wrestlers can be just per natural.
Yeah.
And just as you were talking about that, one of the bulbs in that studio went. So today, what we've done especially is we have sprinkled everywhere in here with holy water. We've had an exorcist in. So we should be safe.
So we're safe, we're safe. No lights popping or any of that?
No, we should be quite safe. Now, as it's your first time in the studio, we have to ask you 3 questions. We ask everyone. Jimmy got asked these a few weeks ago. Question number 1, your favourite wrestler of all time. Who is it, sir?
For me, my favourite wrestler, I have to talk about someone that inspired me mostly with my wrestling career. I would say Triple H, probably above most people. When I was younger, obviously I had Hulk Hogan and the usuals, Ultimate Warrior and all that. But I guess somebody that I would say influenced the characterization, the style, the presence of actually being on a stage, for me, was Triple H, bar none for me.
And that's what everyone tends to focus a lot with Triple H on, the fact that he's married to Stephanie and he's got his feet under the table, as it were, with the McMahon family. And people always go, oh, well, but I think people forget that he's a really good in-ring performer as well. He's good on the microphone. He's good on there he is. He looks good in a suit. Now he's got ones that fit him, because there was a long period where he was wearing suits that were a little bit too big. But he is. I mean, and people tend to overlook that. When we're all sitting using the internet, being smart about wrestling, we all go, oh, well, he's only where he is because of the people he knows. But he's worked for it, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if you followed his career, from WCW, and then he worked from that, and then went into WWE as WWF back then as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I mean, his career is, he's had a lot of character changes. He started out at that. The Hunter Hearst Helmsley thing, then he went into the DX, and then he totally, about 2000, I think, changed his whole persona.
Well, we've talked about the Triple H Foley match from Royal Rumble 2000, which is one of both of our favourite matches.
I was going to say, what a match that was.
Cracking match. I watched it again the other week.